Hello and welcome back to Deadly Sin Gaming. And today is Mod Update Week 2. Oh yes. Not a lot looks like it's changed, but over there's a lot more over there. So, as far as what has changed for what was already existing, all of this is still the same, other than the fact that now we have crafting recipes for all this stuff. So if I go into here, so copper blocks now turn into copper ingots, and a copper ingot turns into nuggets, and nuggets turn back into ingots, and ingots turn back into blocks. Um, the dusts do smelt if we do this. Oh, okay. I broke stuff. That's fine. So yeah, if I get a piece of coal here, and see, the dusts do smelt into the ingots. The only thing right now though is that because I don't have the crafting block to turn ingots and ores into dust. Dusts are technically unobtainable right now, as well as ores, because I haven't added the ores, and I don't know why I haven't added the ores. But I'll probably get to that this upcoming week here. And I have tested it for all of these here, all 5 of the base metals, and they all work. Oh, this should also work here. Let me grab a couple of these, and then some tin. Now this should work. This is one recipe I did not test. Yeah, I didn't test that at all. Um, so yeah, that needs to be fixed. Is the bronze dust update. So bronze would also be completely unobtainable if we use the mod as it is, just because you need to have copper and tin dust to make bronze dust to then smelt into ingots, and then ingots into nuggets, and nuggets and stuff into blocks and whatnot. These recipes here are quite simple. Is a red leaded dye and any iron block will give you red iron blocks, and then red iron blocks into red iron ingots, and ingots into the block. Now to make the dyes, you go into here, get some rose red. So it takes lead dust and any dye. So you could use bone meal, you can use rose red, and it makes this. Just you know, the corresponding dye color for those. Now again, those dyes are technically unobtainable because you can't get lead dust, let alone get any of these because there's no ore generation just yet. But at least in a creative standpoint, all this stuff works. Now, the newest updates, what I have added is a lot of what I call the dirts. The first one is rocky dirt, and I'm not quite sold on this texture, but it definitely says, hey, this is rocky dirt, so that's fine. And you walk on it, sounds like stone, and it breaks like stone. It's a little bit tougher than the rest of these dirts. I think it's about as tough as stone is, but I'm not quite sure. I'd have to look at the code for stone. But yeah, this is the crafting recipe, and this does work. So I can kind of show you guys here. Do that, and then that, and then you get 4 rocky dirt from that. And that can be put in any orientation as long as it goes like, those are crisscrossed. So it can go like that, or it can go like that, and it can be anywhere in the crafting recipe there. So that's fine. Now the next one is sandy dirt, which sounds like sand. And again, a lot of this is just for aesthetics. Doesn't really have a use right now, and it's the same as rocky dirt. just mixed with sand instead. So yeah, it gives it a little bit different texture, kind of do a transition from dirt to sandy dirt to sand instead of going from dirt to sand immediately. It's just how transitions and stuff, and you can go from dirt to rocky dirt to cobblestone or stone. Just give that better transition between different materials and whatnot. Now this is enriched dirt. It's not entirely complete because it takes one piece of dirt and 2 bone meal. And if we do that here, they get you 1 piece of enriched dirt. Enriched dirt, the idea behind that is to be able to till this dirt and have it still be turned into enriched farmland, which I haven't added yet. And then when you grow crops on enriched dirt, it makes them grow at twice the speed. Twice the tick rate, or whatever you want to call it. That's the idea behind it. So it's if you have a skeleton farm or something like that, this is a pretty easy recipe. It's not too bad. This here is peat. There's a lot more I want to do with peat. Right now it's just a dirt block, and I still need to figure out how to get it to turn to dirt when it is covered up like grass does. But right now I can show you. It sounds like wet grass, because this is meant to spawn in swamp areas and stuff like that. And the idea in the future here is that you're able to use some sort of tool. I don't know whether a shovel or just a custom tool that I make to collect the peat off of this, turns this block into normal dirt, and then you get a peat item, something along those sorts, and then you can use the peat to do other stuff. I kind of want to make it a fuel to make it super easy to have a decent fuel supply out of peat moss and stuff like that. Now we get into the muds. Muds, I just gave them the slime sounds. They don't bounce, so it's just like you're slogging through mud. And that is 8 dirt with a water bucket in the middle, and that gives you 8 mud. It's a pretty cheap recipe for each bucket, seeing as when you craft this you get the bucket back, but it doesn't. Yeah, here we go. It's kind of tedious because you get the mud and then the bucket stays behind, so you have to replace the bucket every time. Tedious to craft, but I like this block. And then this is enriched mud, and this is just the same recipe as regular mud, just made with enriched dirt instead. And then you have peat mud, which is using peat instead of enriched dirt or regular dirt, and it just gives you this texture here. Now the reason for the different muds, if we come over here, are these blocks here. Now this one is not, I've decided to change this one here. This block will be in the mod, just not for this recipe. Right now it is, just because that's how I have it coded. But this is white Adobe, or white soft Adobe, or soft white Adobe. Yeah, soft white Adobe is the right. Yeah, soft white Adobe. What I want to do instead is have soft light Adobe. It's a small change, but you'll understand here once I get through all of these things. So this is 2 enriched mud and 2 wheat makes 2 soft white Adobe for right now, but that'll be a change to light Adobe here once I get the textures made up. And then white Adobe here is going to take the new recipe after I fix this here is going to be 8 regular Adobe, which is down there, or regular or soft Adobe. I think I have it as enriched right now. But yeah, and then one bone meal will give you 8 white soft white Adobe. I keep mixing those up. And then the next one here is Peat Mud. 2 Peat Mud, 2 wheat gives you 2 soft dark Adobe. And then regular mud and 2 wheat gives you 2 soft regular Adobe, just soft Adobe. Yeah. Then what you can do is you can smelt either of those up into a furnace, and it will give you these blocks here, which is regular Adobe. So this is white Adobe, Adobe, and dark Adobe. And these are more of a stone. It's kind of like a terracotta, but made with dirt, and technically thatch, but because I don't really have a way to get thatch, we just use wheat. Works just as well for the purposes here. You can then smelt up those Adobes and get the cracked versions here. Then if you craft them in a 4x4 like you would stone, you get the brick versions here, and then you can smelt up the bricks to get those brick versions, or take the cracked versions of the Adobe into a brick pattern and it gives you cracked bricks as well. And then this texture here is stacked Adobe. Yeah, so stacked. And that is just 2 of the bricks on top of each other in the crafting table. So if we just go to crafting table here and grab this. So yeah, just up like that. It can be in any orientation, and you get 2 stacked. So I've tried to make these recipes consistent with how Minecraft does their recipes. So whatever the input of the recipe is, so like you have 2 blocks, you get 2 blocks back. For this is 1 to 1, 1 to 1, because you're just smelting. For this, you put in 4, you'll get out 4. So if I do that, Adobe, so yeah, you'll get 4 out of it because you're putting in 4, and that's the idea. So you're not gaining or losing any actual block space. Now with half slabs and stuff like that, when you do the 3 recipe, you get 6, but you're also, if you stack those together, you are only taking out 3 full blocks is what you put in. While the 6 blocks can go further, if I could learn how to place a block, right? If those are half slabs, then yeah, you could do that. Now the idea behind why I want to change this to light Adobe is because I want to be able to dye each one of these. And the 16 colors like this. Now there will be some changes as far as some of them might get 1 or 1 might not get any. Because if you do, black dye with dark Adobe, you can't have dark black. I mean, it just sounds silly. As well as light white, it just sounds stupid. So I was thinking doing bright white, which would be these Adobe blocks here, would be bright white. And then when you do white with regular Adobe, it gives you white Adobe, which will be a little bit duller of a texture here, or color. And then when you do white with dark Adobe, it'll do dull white or something like that, because technically if you do a darker white, that just gives you gray. As well as light gray, you don't do light gray, you do bright gray or something along those lines. You know that if that doesn't make sense. But yeah, only reason I didn't do it this week is because just doing the textures and all the coding for each one of these 16 blocks here for just 1 block has been tedious, and more tedious. And I can see why Minecraft, or Mojang I should say, has said that they will not be just adding colors to making every block be dyeable. Um, but, I'm a masochist, so I figured, why not? Just do it for these three, and then do it for the 18 types of wood that will be in this mod at the end of it. That's including the 6 that are already in Minecraft, but I want those all to be stainable, as well as the other 12 types of trees that I'm going to hopefully add in here. But yeah, that's the update for this week. I will see you guys in next week with hopefully some more progress. With my busy schedule with working a full-time job and doing the other videos and stuff like that, it's a juggle. I'm juggling. Sitting around coding as well as trying to record videos and stuff like that is time consuming. I think the most time consuming thing is actually making these textures. These ones were easy because these were just hue changes of the iron block. Similar to these were just hue changes of the gold block, at least just for the texture, because I didn't want to kind of have a purple iron block and then have a purple iron block, if that makes sense. So that's why these textures are different. So you have iron, and then you have your gold block, but it's not gold, it's different metal. But yeah. These textures were a lot more tedious because I actually had to make the textures instead of just do hue changes. Some of them are hue changes, like this is mycelium, but with the mycelium hued to a darker green for like a dark moss. This is actually dirt. If you believe it or not, this is the dirt texture that I have blurred tremendously and then changed the hue of it, and then tried to match it up with the Enriched Dirt and then also the peat, and then just made that darker so it looked like it was covered in water. If you want to know what this texture is, it's silly. This isn't any texture that's in the game technically, but it's actually the wheat texture. Yeah, I took the item wheat and I dulled it down to brown, and then I just pasted it around here, layering it over top of each other. Yeah, I don't know if I really like it, but I mean, it gets better over here. That's all I can say. And then this is just the same texture but duller. And then it gets better as you go to the bricks. Yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling. So if you guys enjoyed the update and would like to see more, or have any ideas you would like me to add into this mod, it's called Minecraft Squared for a reason. We're trying to take the number of items and multiply them by themselves and get a squared number of tons of blocks. Yeah, because I think I did the math on the wood. I think it's like 20,000 different blocks if you dye each type of wood, because it would be 18 types of wood times 3 types of wood. So you have, your planks, logs, stripped logs, and then 16 times those 3 times 18. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of blocks to dye, to do hue changes on and stuff like that, and then to add them in. So yeah, it's gonna take a while. So you might be seeing that one week I just do one tree. Yeah. So anyway, if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, and if you'd like to see more, then please consider subscribing. And yeah, and as always, stay sincere and have a good one. Bye.